While the Atlanta Braves haven't made a lot of big moves this offseason, they haven't made a lot of small moves, improving their depth and giving themselves plenty of options. We'll talk about all those moves so far and who will actually have an impact this upcoming season. We'll also spotlight Didier Fuentes, one of the top pitching prospects in the system, and talk about all those big moves that are happening around Major League Baseball. All that on today's episode of Locked On Braves. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Braves, your daily Atlanta Braves podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome back to Locked On Braves, part of Locked On Sports Atlanta, where we cover your favorite Atlanta sports teams each and every day. I'm your host, Jake Mastriani, and you can follow me on social media at Shortstop of All. Check out the podcast there at LockedOn_Braves. If you're new, make sure you subscribe on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button, and leave me a comment down below, as it does help out the show a ton whenever you do those things. If you're listening on the audio version, you can help out by leaving me a 5-star review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. Maybe you don't want to after I muddled through that intro right there, but I do appreciate all your support on Locked On Braves. Appreciate it so much, and hope you're all getting geared up for a fantastic holiday season. On today's episode, we're going to look at all the moves that the Atlanta Braves have made so far. Nothing major, certainly. We're going to look at all the players the Braves have brought in, a lot of depth pieces, but which ones will have an impact this year, I'll tell you on today's episode. We'll also spotlight Didier Fuentes, one of the top pitching prospects in the system, maybe the next one to pop off. We'll take a look at him and also talk about some of those big moves. A lot at the first base position, which really doesn't affect the Braves too much and what they're looking to do this offseason, but a couple of moves made within the division, including one big trade between the Marlins and the Phillies. We'll discuss that later in the podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Well, before we get into some of the smaller moves that have been made so far this season, let's talk about the latest move that the Atlanta Braves made in acquiring Davis Daniel from the Angels for Mitch Ferris. And this is something where I saw the Angels designate Davis Daniel for assignment, and I came very close to pushing the button on sending a tweet that said, bring the kid back home, because he's an Auburn guy, obviously, so am I. But I just thought, no, that just would be too comical for that to happen. And it's the one time I didn't post it, and it actually did happen, that Alex Anthopoulos brings Davis Daniels to the Braves. 27-year-old right-handed pitcher, 7th-round pick out of Auburn in 2019. He didn't pitch at all in 2020 after pitching just 2 innings. It was for, or maybe just 1 inning for Auburn his last year there. I remember all the hype with Davis Daniel. It was right around the time, they just had a top, Casey Mize just had a first overall pick coming out of Auburn. Butch Thompson there does a great job of developing pitching there. Tim Hudson was coaching there for a while as well. It's all this talk about Davis Daniel, and he never really blossomed into that at Auburn, but still had a lot of talent and was drafted in the 7th round because of that talent. He then moved 3 levels in 2021. You may think the Braves are aggressive and moving up prospects. The Angels are the ultimate aggressor in calling up prospects. They pushed him 3 levels in 2021 after not pitching in 2020 at all and only throwing 1 time at Auburn in his last year there. He made 21 starts at AAA, he pitched at 3 levels 2021 and then made 21 starts at AAA in 2022, where he posted a 4.49 ERA, a 1.21 WHIP, and 83 strikeouts and 102 thirds innings pitched. And then last year, he had a 5.42 ERA at AAA and a 6.23 ERA in 6 big league starts. So again, I really wanted to click for this guy, being that I graduated from Auburn. I would love to see an Auburn guy finally flourish, but I can just remember this being the talk around Daniel at Auburn. He's got all this talent. He can be so good, and we just never really got to see it. And, he still gets drafted on that talent, and he gets rushed through the minor league system with the Angels, and we just still haven't seen it. And maybe it doesn't come, but the Braves are certainly hoping that that is the case with them. And he has minor league options left, which certainly plays into that. And that's great for organizational depth, which is kind of the theme of the offseason so far. Does a guy have minor league options? Can he provide organizational depth? And that's exactly what the Braves have done. A couple of things that Davis Daniel does well. He doesn't really walk anyone. Walk per 9 under 3 at the minor league level. And at the big league level, his average X velocity is very good. He's not giving up a lot of hard contact consistently, at least. and his expected ERA was 4.34. Now, it's a small sample size, but it's 2 runs lower than his actual, which tells you that maybe there is something there. I mean, if he could pitch to a 4.34 at the big league level, you're talking about a 4th, 5th starter, and you can live with that. Four-seamer sits around 91.5 miles per hour. So again, nothing crazy there. Slider, changeup, curve on top of that. Not a lot of swing and miss. This is just a depth piece. We may not see Davis Daniel make a start for the Braves this year. Davis Daniel might not be on the Braves roster in the next couple of weeks. But they did give up Mitch Ferris, who was probably going to be the same type of depth filler for the Atlanta Braves, but a little bit younger prospect for them. But he just Davis Daniel gives you somebody that has major league experience that you can throw in there. But I put him pretty far down the depth chart. I'd probably put him behind Bryce Elder, and I don't think there's many people in the game right now that some of you would put behind Bryce Elder in a pecking order for the rotation. But I think he's on down the list. But he does give you some more options. Maybe he has to make a spot start or 2 this year for the Atlanta Braves. But these are the types of moves that they have been making all offseason. It is a little bit of, David Thatcher says, dumpster diving. I don't know if I'd quite put it like that, but it has been a lot of just grabbing some depth, grabbing guys with options to give you some more depth. And you look at the year that they just went through and all the injuries that they had and how much it tested that depth. It makes sense that they would want to go through and improve their organizational depth at the upper levels. And again, these are not guys that you want to have to count on. The Braves weren't expecting to have to count on a Whit Merrifield and a Gio Urshela and the likes, and those guys actually did perform. There's many I'm forgetting that probably didn't perform, a Zach Short, guys like that. You don't want to have to count on these guys to win you postseason games, to get you to the postseason, but you may have to count on these guys to get you through an IL stint, to help get you through a couple of weeks. And that's what Alex Anthopoulos has really focused on a lot this offseason, is getting these organizational depth pieces to help you out. Let's run through the list of everybody that the Braves have gotten so far this offseason. Jordan Weems, bullpen depth. He is out of options, but some good bullpen depth. Brian De La Cruz, outfield depth. He has 2 minor league options left. Connor Capel, outfield depth. No options left there. Wander Suero, bullpen depth. Has a minor league option left. Connor Gillespie, bullpen depth, 2 options left. Anderson PR, who they took in the Rule 5 draft, so he has to stay on the active roster or else you have to offer him back to the other team, but he gives you bullpen depth. Christian Cairo, infield depth, same thing, Rule 5 pick, got to stay on the active roster or be offered back to his former team. Jose Devers, infield depth, has a minor league option left. Ray Kerr, bullpen starter depth, no options left. But we know, Ray Kerr showed some good signs last year. Glad to have him back. Same for Royber Salinas, who, Braves traded for, then non-tendered, and then they signed him on a minor league deal. He has 2 minor league options left, but more bullpen or starter depth. Carlos D. Rodriguez, outfield depth, has 3 minor league options left. Charles LeBlanc, infield depth with 2 minor league options left. Kobe Beto, this is one I don't even remember. Infield depth, hasn't played at the big league level. And Anoli Paredes, bullpen depth, no options left there. And Nick Allen, infield depth, no options. So again, a lot of these are guys you're hoping you don't have to count on. And I look at these names and I wonder, and I want to know your opinion on this too, of those names that I just mentioned, of these depth pieces that the Braves have acquired, because that's what the Braves have acquired. Those names I just listed. Maybe I missed 1 or 2 in there. If I did, please let me know. Obviously, they acquired Connor Griffin, non-tendered him. He signed with the Mets. But let me know if I missed anybody. But of those names, who do you think has the biggest impact at the major league level this year for the Braves? Let me know down in the comment section below. I'm going to give you a few names here, and I'm going to list them in terms of guys who I think get the most playing time. Brian De La Cruz, I think, is at the top. If nothing materializes in the outfield the rest of the offseason, he's probably going to start the year getting a chance while we wait for Acuna to come back. So I think he, out of this group, is most likely to get a significant amount of playing time. PR, the guy they got in the Rule 5 draft, he has to be on the roster or they have to offer him back. So that alone gives him a leg up. I think Nick Allen has a really good shot to be the bench infielder. As a guy that comes in for a defensive replacement, put the bat on the ball, I kind of like him a little bit. I've heard a lot of good things about him defensively. I'm a defensive guy, so I want to see what he can do. So those are the top three for me that I think are most likely to get significant. And when I say significant, I mean, I'm talking about 20 games. I mean, I don't think any of these guys are going to play a lot unless things go really, really wrong. But De La Cruz, PR, and Allen, I think, are most likely. Ray Kerr, just because we saw him last year, what he could do from the left side, I think he has an option to get back up, a possibility to get back up there. Daniel as well. Like I said, maybe he makes the starter too. Weems, he's out of options, so I think he has a good chance to earn a bullpen spot. And I'm going to put last one on here, Carlos D. Rodriguez. As a fifth outfielder type and a left-handed bat, the Braves are looking for another left-handed bat. Somebody puts the ball in play, has some speed. I think he has a chance to maybe get on the roster. So those are the guys that I think have the highest probability of having some sort of impact. And again, we are all hoping that none of these guys really have that much of an impact, because if that's the case, that means somebody has gotten hurt. But those are the guys that I think are most likely to have an impact this year. But again, all this depth is to help build for that worst case scenario that we saw last year, where everybody gets hurt and gets hurt for a significant amount of time. You have guys that have big league experience ready to step in. The 40-man roster is now full, but you can obviously remove players from that, and the Braves have plenty of guys that can be let go if a bigger move is to be made. But at this point, the 40-man roster is full. So if the Braves do make a move, they are going to have to DFA one of these players and risk losing them. So that is the case now with the roster full. Of course, they would make the trade. They could possibly open up some more spots, whatever the case may be. But again, any type of move that happens, something was going to have to take place, because the 40-man roster is full at the moment. So again, let me know your thoughts on that. Which of these players do you think has the biggest impact this season for the Atlanta Braves? How do you feel about these depth signings? Again, a lot of these are guys that you've probably never heard of. Some of them are guys that I've never heard of. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. Next, we will turn our attention to our minor league spotlight, looking at Didier Fuentes, who I don't think is going to have an impact in 2025, but I think he might have the best case to shoot up the prospect rankings in 2025. We'll discuss him here next. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets. Yes, I said 250. It's been 150 for a while, but they're upping it to $250 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. You can head on over there to FanDuel.com and look at the latest odds that they have. Super Bowl odds out there right now. Your Falcons are not even showing in the top here. They don't have a great chance. Plus 11,000, I think, is what it says there on FanDuel. But you can check all of that out over at FanDuel.com. If you're getting ready for the Major League Baseball season, they have World Series odds where the Braves are somehow now tied with the Yankees. The Braves haven't done anything, and now they're plus 850. Maybe they didn't like the Yankees getting Paul Goldschmidt, but the Braves now have the second best odds on FanDuel behind the Dodgers. They're tied with the Yankees at plus 850, right in front of the Mets at plus 900, and the Phillies at plus 1,000. This division is going to be a problem in 2025. Again, you can see all that over at FanDuel.com. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make everyone want more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Thanks as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. Go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen, solely catching up with everything happening around Major League Baseball. If you're tired of hearing about the lack of moves that the Braves aren't making, you can go over and listen to Locked On MLB, and Sully will tell you everything that is happening around Major League Baseball. I'm going to tell you too if you hang around till the end. I don't know what this week is going to look like. Obviously, with a holiday week, we will at least get 2 more podcasts in. Maybe some big news will happen, but like you, I'm going to be doing a lot of traveling, spending time with family over the next several days. So again, not sure exactly what the podcast schedule will look like this week. So make sure you are subscribed on YouTube, hit that notification bell so you know whenever I do go live or post a new episode. It's our Minors Monday Spotlight. This week we are featuring Didier Fuentes, a 19-year-old, turns 20 in June, right-handed pitcher, 6 foot 170. Got to tell you, watching video on him, looks bigger than that. So again, maybe that needs to get updated. Signed out of Colombia in 2022 for $700,000 for $75,000 in 2022 at the DSL level. 11 games started, posted a 2.25 ERA, a 1.02 whip, 217 average against, and in 44 innings pitched, he had 50 strikeouts. But however, in 2023, pitching at single A, he in 10 games, he made 7 starts, had a 7.27 ERA, a 1.69 whip, and in 26 innings struck out 27 batters. However, this past year, he got back on track at single A once again, 18 games, 17 starts, a 2.74 ERA, a 1.02 whip, and in 75 2/3 innings pitched, he struck out 98 batters. So you saw the strikeout rate really jump up. That's an 11.6 K per nine, which is just excellent, and a 2.5 walk per nine, which is also excellent. So really good stuff from him this season. He left a start early on August 9th, came back and made one more start in September, on September 4th, where he threw 3 scoreless innings, allowing just 1 hit with no walks and 4 strikeouts. So seemed okay. Might have also just been limiting his innings a little bit there, but he didn't really pitch much the second half of the season. You look at the pitch mix for Fuentes, a low 90s fastball that sits around 93, he topped out at 97 this past year. And when you watch this fastball, it has some serious life on it. It has some serious arm side run on it, making it play a lot faster. And I'm telling you, it's really impressive to watch. The first outing that I watched for him, he was blowing that fastball by hitters, especially up in the zone. If he's able to throw it at the chest, he's getting a lot of swing and miss. In the first inning of one of the games I watched, he got at least 4, if not 5 swing and misses on the fastball. And again, it's a fastball that averages 93 miles per hour, but just because it has so much induced vertical break on it, has so much movement and some ride on it, some arm side run on it, he gets a lot of swing and misses, and he throws it 70% of the time, which is great. I'll talk more about that here in a second, but it's a really good fastball. He also has a slider, which has some really good movement on it, a changeup that I didn't see too much. It had some good fade on it, a couple that I did see, but I don't know if that was because he was overthrowing it or what, because they weren't close to the strike zone. But slider, split change, or his other 2 pitches along with that fastball. Now, kind of my takeaway and looking towards the future, what do I need to see with Fuentes? There is clearly something to build around with this fastball. And look, while you love it if a guy has a great splitter, a great slider, none of that matters if you don't have a good fastball and if you can't locate it. And he has that. So you can build around that. You have a really good fastball that you can throw for strikes and that you can get swings and misses on. That's rare. And that's very, very good when you're trying to build a pitcher, especially if the velocity continues to tick up, which it sounds like this past year. And as he gets bigger, like I said, mentioning in the video, he looked bigger than 170 pounds to me. I'm not saying he was overweight or anything. It looked like a solid frame for a guy. And so if he continues to get stronger and you continue to have velocity on that fastball along with that movement, I mean, again, I think it boosts his profile even more. I think the question going forward is, does he still get that swing and miss on that fastball at higher levels, especially if he can't really develop those secondary pitches? Can guys sit on it? He did give up a home run on that fastball. It was one that, again, second time through the order, guy maybe timed it up a little bit better. It was also down a little bit. Like I said, I think it plays better at the top of the zone where he got most of his swings and misses, but this one was more middle and in, and the guy just kind of turned on it and absolutely clobbered it. Went over the bleachers in left field. But how does that play at the higher level? Can you get by throwing that fastball 70% of the time? I doubt it. I really doubt it. And because he so rarely had to throw his other pitches, I couldn't get a good feel for the slider. I could see the slider had good movement, but I never saw him throw it in the zone for a strike. Is that something that he can do when he needs to get somebody off the fastball? But everything moves. The slider has good movement on it. The split change, like I said, didn't see a lot of them, but it had good movement. The fastball has good movement. So everything's moving. All of his pitches are moving and have good movement on them. Can he command them? Can he control them? Mainly his secondary is the fastball. He shows really good command of already. But I think there's the makings here of a solid big league starter if he can continue to develop those secondaries. And as he gets up to the higher levels, utilizing them a little bit more. I don't know if he can get by throwing that fastball 70% of the time. But this isn't a Spencer Strider type of fastball unless that velocity does tick up and he's sitting more 97. But, it doesn't seem like he's really close to that at all, that's where he's topping out right now. But if not, we might be looking at a reliever profile, which is not the end of the world. We've discussed on here a lot. The Braves need to do a better job of developing relievers. And certainly the kid's 19. We're not giving up on him as a starter, but if he's not able to build on those secondaries, that fastball is good enough, the slider is good enough that you could throw that fastball 70% of the time and work that slider off of it, become a 2-pitch pitcher, and be a really good reliever. But certainly the Braves and myself, we're hoping for more. And I think there is more to build on. The other thing I need to see is just the workload improve. Like I said, he's a really young pitcher. He's been really young at the single A level in Augusta the past 2 years. He's thrown just 145 and 2/3 innings over the last 3 seasons, and he's never thrown more than 76 innings in a season, which he did last year through 75 and 2/3. This past year, he completed 5 innings just 6 times and never went beyond 5 innings in an outing. So again, not saying that he should have at this point, but I think next year should be the time that hopefully we see the Braves take those training wheels off a little bit. Let them develop those secondary. We know what the fastball can do. Let them develop and focus on those secondaries a little bit more. Let them focus on going deeper into games and seeing how that holds up. Does that fastball still carry, a second, third time through the lineup? Can he get into those secondaries? Those are things I want to see with Fuentes in 2025, because that's going to tell me what his future is. I think the likely outcome, or I'll put it this way, I think the floor for Fuentes is he can be a really solid setup reliever with that fastball, with that slider combination. And that's a good floor to have. Like I said, the Braves need more of those guys in the system. Best possible outcome is he really develops, the slider and the changeup to go along with that fastball. The fastball ticks up a little bit. And I think we're looking at a number 3 starter. I think that is the ceiling for him, and possibly a number 2 if that fastball velocity does tick up. I think that highly of this fastball for Fuentes, that if the velocity ticks up and he can start to rely on those secondaries a little bit more, which he'll need to as he goes up to upper levels. I would imagine he's going to spend most of 2025 at high A. Rome maybe gets a little bit of a look at double A. But if, as he goes up those higher levels, he's going to need to lean on those secondaries a little bit more. And if that slider and that changeup come along with that fastball, then we're looking at a starter build. And I think the ceiling is a number 3 type of starter. So I'm really excited about him. But again, there are still a lot of questions I have about him going into his age, 20 season, what he'll turn in June. So I can't wait to see more of him. But again, want to see those questions answered for him next year. All right, let me know your thoughts on Fuentes. You excited about him? Is he somebody that is on your radar? Again, if he answers some of those questions in 2025, I've seen some people put him, either right inside the Braves top 10 or right outside. So you're starting to see people in the industry start to notice him as well. I think if he answers some of those questions in 2025, has a big year at Rome, you're going to see his stock really shoot up. I got him in my Dynasty League. I'm excited about that. All right, next, we'll get into some of the big moves happening around Major League Baseball, including a big trade between the Phillies and the Marlins. We'll discuss that here next. You shouldn't have to worry when you buy tickets to your next big event, and you don't when you use Gametime. Gametime is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer last-minute deals, all in prices of views from your seat that you can filter right there, all in the same screen, and you get the Gametime guarantee. That means you'll always get the best price. You find tickets in the same section and row for less, Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Tell you all the time, Gametime is the only app that I use whenever I'm getting ready to go to a Braves game. I'm getting ready to go to a bowl game here in Birmingham soon. I'm constantly checking the Gametime app. They have the Gametime picks that you can filter. It gives you their best deals for that event, and you can see it right there again in the Gametime app. Very easy to use. So download the Gametime app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONMLB. You're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. All right, again, thanks as always for making Locked On Braves your first listen of the day. I do truly appreciate all your support and those joining me here live today, as well as Jeffrey Humphreys. Always remind you, like that video. I would appreciate it a lot. A lot of news to get to from over the weekend. Some sad news as well with Ricky Henderson passing away. I mean, that just, I think, took everybody a little off guard, or caught everybody a little off guard this past weekend. The reports of was it really true? It took a while for confirmation to come out, but unfortunately it is the case. Ricky Henderson has passed away, one of the legends in the game. So certainly saddened by that. Prayers for his family. And just, it's sad anytime you see one of these legends in the game go that meant so much for the game that we love so much. So certainly prayers for his family. Now, looking at some of the moves from over the weekend, again, a lot of it surrounding the first base position. We'll get into those, but we got to discuss the trade between the Phillies and the Marlins, because a lot of you, and we've talked about it, a lot of you have asked, would the Braves be interested in Jesus Luzardo? Left-handed pitcher, seemed like a possible replacement for Max Fried. And, I've said it made sense. You don't really see those trades of like that in the division like that. And the Phillies trade Jesus Luzardo and catcher trade for Jesus Luzardo and catcher Paul McIntosh from the Marlins for Starlin Caba and Amarion Boyd. Now, Caba is a top 100 prospect by MLB Pipeline. Don't know much about Boyd, but it doesn't seem like a huge package for somebody like Luzardo, especially with what we've seen from free agent prices or starting pitching prices this offseason, both in free agency and in the trade market. Luzardo having 2 years of control left. So again, it's not, not like he has 4 years left or anything like that. So I can understand it is still a top 100 prospect that you had to give up. And look, it's hard to compare what would the Braves have had to give up, because you never know how a team views a player and what they're wanting. I don't know how Caba compares to a Nacho Alvarez per se. But again, it doesn't seem like the highest package in the world. And now the Phillies have got a pretty good left-handed starter to add to their rotation mix. So certainly hate that the Phillies got a little bit better there with Luzardo. I don't think it's anything to get too upset about, but and yeah, as so-called Cal Brave said, Luzardo did take a bit of a step back. I think there's also been some injuries that have kind of held him back as well, which is a theme with Marlins pitchers, unfortunately. But I do like Luzardo, and I think he can be a good pitcher, and he's now with the Phillies. The Nationals, another NL East team making a move. They trade for Nathaniel Lowe from the Rangers for left-handed reliever Robert Garcia. Again, not anything the Braves were going to be interested in there, but the Nationals do get a first baseman in Nathaniel Lowe. And the Nationals, maybe not this upcoming year, but 2-3 years, Nationals could be turning a corner there. Christian Walker signed with the Astros, which means Bregman is likely looking for a new home. So he's still out there to sign. Around the winter meetings, it sounded like Bregman might be the next one to sign, next big free agent to sign. That hasn't happened. And now the Astros have kind of moved on to Christian Walker, kind of closing that door. So we'll see where Bregman ends up. Paul Goldschmidt signs a 1-year deal with the Yankees for $12.5 million. Let me know your thoughts. There's been a lot of talk that the Yankees, after missing out on Soto, they've gone and made all these moves, and they're better off without Juan Soto. Look at that lineup and tell me what you think. I just don't see it. I think their pitching staff is better. Max Fried is great. Devin Williams is great. Their pitching staff is certainly a lot better. I just don't see that lineup being all that good. I'm not, as you know, you listen to the podcast, I'm not that huge on Cody Bellinger. Paul Goldschmidt is declining, and I just, as somebody pointed out, if this were the 2019 version of these players, the Yankees would have a stacked team. I'm just not buying that this lineup is better than it was last year with Juan Soto. I'm not buying that at all. Pitching staff looks good, but that lineup I still don't think is one of the best in baseball. But let me know your comments on that as well. Josh Naylor was traded to Arizona for Slade Cecconi and a comp B pick, another pick that was traded. I'm also interested in when a team like the Guardians trades for a pitcher like that hasn't really lived up to expectations. That might be one to keep an eye on. The Guardians then signed Carlos Santana to play first base for them, 1 year, $12 million. The A's signed Braves legend Gio Urshela as the A's continue to make some moves over there. And it was reported that the Blue Jays are now listening to offers for Bo Bichette, which is a change from what we saw back at the beginning of the offseason. But the asking price is still high. They're not willing to sell low on Bo Bichette, but maybe that reopens the door for possible talks there. He is owed $16.5 million this upcoming season, so it's not like he's really cheap for a Braves team that might be trying to stay under the luxury tax. But again, you go get a player like Bo Bichette to help you out at shortstop. Braves certainly should be listening. What I think is going to happen, because the Blue Jays seem like they really want to go for it. Also, I believe this is an article from Ken Rosenthal. He talked about the fact that if the Blue Jays did go sign Bregman, that maybe it opens up the door to trade a Bo Bichette or something like that. It makes it more likely they move him. I think the Blue Jays are going to go for it to start the year, and Bichette's traded 2-3 months into the season. I don't think he's getting traded this offseason. But again, wanted to at least mention it because I know a lot of people are interested in Bo Bichette and the Braves trading for him. All right, that will do it for this episode. Thank you so much, Drew Phillips, Braves Thrills, as well, Mass Boost, Austin Pruitt, all joining me here live. Jeffrey Humphreys, appreciate you all joining me live on tonight's episode. BC, get out of here with your Go Dodger stuff. Steve Schneider as well. Thank you all for joining me. Again, hope you all have a great holiday. I don't know what this week will look like. We'll look at one question here. Drew Phillips, do you think the Braves could trade pitching prospects to Baltimore for some hitting prospects? Could help both teams lack of prospect depth in those departments. Yes, that's something we've talked about a lot. I think there is a match there. I know there's been some, not rumored, but people have mentioned the idea of maybe an AJ Smith-Shawver for a Hurston Kjerstad swap, which I don't hate. And I think certainly makes some sense. The Braves will get a young, controllable outfielder that they could use from the left side. But you got to give up, obviously something for that. And you have to get one of your top pitching prospects. But yes, I do think those teams do match up, and that the Orioles have a ton of position player prospects and the Braves have a ton of pitching prospects. So something could make sense there. All right. Again, thank you all for joining me on today's podcast. Hope you all have a great Christmas. Hope you enjoy time with family. Like I said, don't know when we'll be back on the podcast. We might be back tomorrow. We might not be back till after the Christmas break. But either way, thank you all for joining me on today's episode. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, hit that thumbs up button, and leave me a comment down below. Make sure that you go check out Locked On MLB for your second listen of the day. Make sure that you follow me on social media at shortstopball, at LockedOn_Braves, and make sure that you rate, review, and subscribe to the Locked On Braves podcast wherever you get your podcast. And we will talk to you next time.